On today's show, we're talking about predatory publishers, also known as vanity press. So stay tuned.
Hi, and welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on their journey toward publication. I'm Christina Catane, and I'm currently writing Christian dystopian fantasy.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
Okay, so thank you everybody who comes in here and joins us in the chat and listens to us live. And also a big thank you to all our listeners on iTunes or any of the other platforms. And the one listener on that one whose name I can't remember.
Stitcher.
Stitcher, that's it. So if you like what we do, remember to share and click like and subscribe and mash all the buttons except the thumbs down one.
Do they all have thumbs down one, or is that just that's probably YouTube?
There's
thing?
a thumbs down on YouTube and there's just thumbs down on Facebook. So I don't know.
But if you put a thumbs down, put a reason why, and put it on every social media platform you have of how terrible and awful we are.
Scream
and
it
tell
from the
everybody
rooftops.
they need to go see for themselves how terrible we are.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you never want to miss an episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, or you want to do the sprint with us ahead of time, or you just want to know what's going on, go to christianindywriters.net and subscribe to our newsletter, and you will get a newsletter on Friday mornings at 9 o'clock. So we like to start each episode with a segment we call What's Up. So that's where we go around and everyone says, what's up? So what's up, Jamie?
I was blessed, and I'm taking my friends to the airport today to have friends come and visit me from Michigan. And these friends have been a long time part of my homeschooling journey and community, which I left in Michigan when we moved away almost 4 years ago. Well, as a part of my homeschooling journey, I started a homeschool cooperative with my friend Kim Hannon. And that homeschool cooperative was formed in 2012, and they are going to undergo a name change and a format change. And so Hearth Homeschool Co-op, which I co-founded with Kim, won't exist after 2022. So essentially, the cooperative that I founded had a 10-year anniversary party and farewell at the same time. Well, because I could not be in Michigan for their final meeting, they took up a little collection and got me a beautiful gift, and I wanted to share that. So it was just so heartwarming to open. If you can see, it's a tree with a bunch of gems on it. And then it has so it's really beautiful when I hang it in my window and it catches the light. And I love how it has roots. And just, I love the symbolism of it. They did a really good job picking something out as a keepsake to remember what we did there, because apparently we changed a lot of lives, and that's really humbling. I appreciate all of them so much.
My son-in-law came in when my son was in that co-op and started teaching a class. And when my son was too old to go, my son-in-law kept going. And he kept teaching, and he's really bummed. He's really bummed about the changes, but.
Oh, so are they not having a homeschool group anymore? Or
no, there will still be a group, but they're going to focus less on actual class lessons and more on just getting the kids together to do social events, because with the formation of so many public school, homeschool, hybrid options, a format like we used to run where the parents would all come together and pool money and pool resources to give classes for the children. Well, now the state offers all of it for free, and there just isn't the enrollment numbers you would hope to have for a program like what we used to do. And so as times change, you have to adapt and become what your families need instead of what you wish was the reality. And they've got to adapt with the times. Things are, it's a different world now post-COVID.
That is really sad to me too, because actually we're kind of still new into homeschooling, and my girls and I were just talking about getting into a co-op for next year. We feel like we're kind of ready for that. We feel like we kind of have a rhythm for how we homeschool. And we've tried the ones through public school and had a terrible experience. So, but you're right, things change, life changes. And so hopefully they'll just this new like iteration of it, they'll find some success that way too. So
Yeah, and it's if you're in Michigan and you're looking for a great community, I can't remember the name that they've moved to. Oh, it's going to be homeschool something else with an H, Oasis. And so Hope Homeschool Oasis at Hopewell General Baptist.
mm,
And Bud Welton and Jen Welton, he's the pastor and she's his wife, and they have a beautiful community there. So if you happen to be close enough in the Flint metro area and you homeschool, check out what they're doing, because I know you'll meet great people there. I don't know what your activities will be, but all of the people there have just tremendously huge hearts and really do love people with the love of Christ. So I
I
totally endorse
second
them.
that. Okay, so I'm gonna go next because I have a date to announce. I feel like I'm like announcing my wedding date. Like we picked a date. May 18th is gonna be the hard launch for book 2 of the Angelica series, Alone in the Land of
Yay.
yay.
So I've sent it out to my advanced team, and I have all my promo stacking already scheduled. I'm doing promo stacking from Monday through Friday that week. I got for book 1. I'm gonna mark book 1 down to 99 cents and promo stack it all 5 days, and then book 2 is coming out on that Wednesday. So that's my plan. That's next.
Wow, what a huge accomplishment, Tina.
Mm.
I never
So
would
amazing.
come. Of course, I never thought it would come with book 1 either. So here we are.
All right, got lots
Oh,
of congratulations coming in for you. Maria says, "Yay, Tina, that's amazing. Congratulations." Gigi says, "Congrats." Michelle saying, "Woohoo, Tina." And Liz Henderson saying, "That's exciting, Tina." So lots of
thanks,
congratulations
guys.
happening.
Now go out and buy it. I was kidding.
All right. So in our What's Up, we have Maria says that she just got back off a holiday in the Cotswolds. I hope I pronounced that right yesterday. Really lovely time, especially going to Oxford to see C.S. Lewis's old college and seeing where Tolkien and Lewis are buried.
Oh, wow.
That's exciting.
Nice.
Piper says, "What's up? Had a couple of weeks hiatus on my own writing, but back to it this week and really enjoying diving back in. During my break, I traveled and edited a great book. Can't wait till it's pubbed."
Oh, we know what book that is.
And Liz says, "What's up? I bought 3 books of the series called Love and Lansing, and I started reading the first one yesterday." Oh, I hope you like it,
Yay.
Liz. It's so funny to me when because I don't read these ahead. I just, especially if I like trust these. If it's someone that it's been in our chat multiple times and I trust them, I don't even read. I just like click their name and throw it up there. So thank you, Liz. I hope you really enjoy it. Let me know what you think. So.
Okay, next time, everybody, put something really funny that Jennifer's going to have to say out loud.
I know I shouldn't have admitted that because I just put myself on the chopping block now, right? So
Okay,
Oh.
Jennifer, what's up with you?
I have no idea. Like as we're starting, before we started, and as we're I like didn't know what I was gonna say. I feel like I'm kind of like in just like this holding zone, right? My oldest goes to driver's training next week, so we're gonna get her an eye
Wow.
exam today. I know. Well, she actually should be driving already, but because of COVID, they shut everything down, and then when they opened up things like driving school again, there was such a wait list, and I didn't realize that. So I didn't get on it fast enough. So and then she didn't want to start like in the winter. So anywho, she's starting next week. And my birthday is next week and Mother's Day. We call it I always joke and call it the week of mom, because my birthday always falls within a week of Mother's Day. So I don't like it to spread out the holidays for me. And every so often they fall right next to each other, like Saturday, Sunday. And that's happened this week. And we don't even get to celebrate the weekend of mom next weekend because my son Spencer is graduating with his master's degree from Olivet Nazarene University. So we're going
Oh,
down.
yay.
Oh,
He did
fun.
not get to walk when he got his undergrad because of COVID, and he gets to walk today. So this time, so we're very excited. So next weekend we're heading down there and gonna crash his party down there, and just So that's what's going
Oh,
on with
that's
us.
gonna be so much fun.
I know. Whoops, I accidentally hit that by accident.
When my daughter graduated from there with her master's, my husband also graduated on the same day
Mm,
with his master's. So they
mhm.
walked at the same time. It was really cool.
That is cool. How exciting. So
Okay. Do we have any other what's up in the chat?
Well, what I want to point out is how interesting it is that as part of Maria's vacation, she went and visited like the final resting place of famous authors. And
Mhm.
as much as I've had fantasies about what my life would be like as a famous author, I did not ever really consider like, the ones who are really big, like, people will go to your grave and be like, here's where her actual bones are. I mean,
Right.
I'm just saying that is like a possible reality if you are widely enough read, and it's just not anything that ever occurred to me. Like, I'm sure I would be thinking, oh, there's the desk from which famous whatever book was penned or something. But I've never before thought that people might visit my grave because they liked my books. That's kind of
And
interesting.
the thing about Lewis and Tolkien is they weren't just like really well loved authors; they changed the industry.
Mm,
Their
yes.
their works were groundbreaking.
We don't think about that because we're used to having books with dragons in it, and we're used to having like allegory that, like, I mean, allegory existed before, but not like the way they did it. Like they really did. You're right. They really
Mhm.
did set the standard. And so, yeah, that's interesting. I don't want anyone to visit my grave.
I
Like,
don't.
I'm stressed out enough about thinking about like public, like book signings and things like that. Like, I don't want to be up in heaven going, no, get away. I don't like how my tombstone looks. Quit staring at my tombstone.
Oh, that's an interesting comment that Maria made. She said she was disappointed that Tolkien's house was just an ordinary house people were living in with a plaque on the wall rather than an actual museum you could go around.
Like you want to see where he wrote and like that, but yeah.
Yeah, like if you owned Tolkien's house, why would you not be like, all right, however many pence or shillings or
You
euros
could
or
make
whatever.
a lot of money just charging admission. Like,
You would think. And then, like, if you were less than scrupulous, you could be like, right here was where Tolkien fed his cat or whatever, and you could.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say is like you would kind of have to set it up the way that it was like when he lived there. And if you don't have any of the furniture, like how would you do that? Like in Massachusetts, you can go see the home that John F. Kennedy was raised in. It's not very big. It's not what you would expect. Or no, maybe it's his dad. Anyways, it's one of the JFK like sites. And of course my aunt was a huge fan, so we had to walk through it, and like literally you just walk through it. But like these people knew that there was going to be something famous happening in their family. Like, they preserved that, the family did. Like they kept everything and they didn't sell the house. And so you would have to have been in that mindset. But now, like, to go back and try to turn the house into a museum, I mean, I guess I don't know, it would be
You would
difficult,
have to be like, it is likely that Tolkien sat in a chair very
Yes.
much like this one.
this is his laptop that his cat is laying on.
Right. That would seem to me like that would be a scam.
Oh,
me.
nice
Oh,
segue.
you know what? Abraham Lincoln said it best when he said, "You can't believe everything you read on the internet."
Sorry.
Okay, we should probably talk about our topic of the day.
Yeah, speaking of scams, right?
So today's topic is, and we have a disclaimer. It's in all caps, so I'm assuming it's important. We are not going to name names, and we are not lawyers or a watchdog group.
Yes, which is why if you look at our YouTube, or actually even if you're listening to this, I'll put it in the show notes for the podcast. I shared a few links, especially for Ally, the Alliance of Independent Authors. If you don't know who they are, they're kind of like a union for writers, for independent writers. They are a great organization. They give you a lot of free information You can become a member. I am a member. I feel very strongly in what they do and the things that they have done for writers. Like they go after Amazon for things like the whole Audible Gate, they were all over that. And if it wasn't for them, who knows what would have happened to these poor authors and the money they were supposed to have been earning. But anyway, they have lawyers to back up, and they do have people that are watchdogs, and they do have researchers. So these are things that we have learned. So these are things that we have learned from being in the industry we've all been in the industry for a few years now, but it's also backed up by people that have put some money behind it too. So if you have any questions, reach out to Ally. Don't come after us.
What we share may be anecdotal, and
Right.
take it what you will.
So we should probably start with the definition of vanity press, because that definition has definitely changed over time.
Yes, for sure. Like I remember years ago, before I started writing my book. So I don't even know if I had any kids at this point. I was at a craft fair, and there was a guy sitting there selling books. I remember thinking, "Oh, that poor guy. He couldn't get a traditional contract." But I bought his book anyway. And it was good. He may be a famous person now. I don't know what happened to the book, so who knows? But back then, if we would be considered a vanity press, right? Like because
I think so. Yeah, because it's like a definition of a vanity press was a book that is published by the author. And so you would just basically pay a printing organization, a printing house, to provide you with copies of books, which you would then sell at fairs or flea markets or garage sales, or just hand out to your friends, or just stack in your garage to never sell to anybody, depending on how motivated of a salesperson you were. And that was certainly before the internet. If you heard the words vanity press, that's what that meant.
And the big game changer was Kindle. Like truly back in 2010, people were starting to really self-publish, and Kindle kind of came out. And that's when the game changed, when Amazon made it very accessible for authors to become their own publishers. And so even though back then they were considered vanity press, nowadays the definition has for sure changed. The difference is, we're going to go into that, but self-published authors are not considered vanity press, is basically the crux of that situation.
Right, because the digital age changed everything and put us in control. So let's talk about some of the different kinds of. We have indie publishing, trad publishing, and vanity press. Let's talk about those things, and small presses. Is that the right term?
Well, small press falls under traditionally press, so traditionally pubbed.
Okay.
So, so an indie pub like me, I pay for all the services, or I do it myself. I either pay for my book covers, or I do my own book covers. I pay for my editing, or as I do at this point in my career, I trade out my editing for other skills that I have. And I also have people that are really good at things and just do it for free for me, like my copy editor and like that. So a indie pub person, they're the person putting out the money for things, but they retain all the rights. A traditionally pubbed author, they give up most of their rights, but they don't pay for anything. So the publishing house would pay for your covers, for your editing, for your marketing. That's the other thing that I pay for, is my own marketing. But they also they also keep part of the profit, and they have control over book cover. And it's varying. You can have it in your contract, but most traditional publishers choose the book cover. They choose who's going to edit your book. They make the choices, so they have control over that. A vanity publishing company, I hate to say that they're even a publishing company, but a vanity press will have you pay for the services. They'll pay you pay them, and they still retain the rights and the royalties and
control over how much marketing you get.
Yes. So it's all about control. It's like who has the control and where's the money going. So that's the difference between the three. So traditional published and small press is still the same. It's the same business model. Yes. So, but there is differences. Now, we're
There
not
is a
here to like
total
split up like
nuances. Yeah.
traditional publish, but they're all under the same model. And then there's the big house traditional publishers, which is what everyone thinks of when they think of trad pub. And then there's small press publishers, and they all have a little bit different business model, but they all fall under the fact that the author isn't paying for the services, the publisher is paying for the services, and then everything else like is contractual. Like they make the decisions that way. So,
Okay.
okay.
S- So, why let's talk about vanity presses and how we can recognize them and what exactly they are.
Well, I'm a big advocate of changing even from using the words vanity press because it's so confusing because exactly what vanity press used to mean.
Right.
And then it confuses people who find out you're independently published into thinking you're doing vanity press. So it's like we just would prefer to call them scammers instead
Agreed.
of continuing to call it vanity press, right?
Because it makes it
So,
almost sound legitimate because you use press in the word or publishing, but they're not. They're scams. So
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry to bunny trail. What was the original question?
Well, I just was saying let's just talk about what it is.
Or why we fall for it, right? Like why,
Yeah.
I mean, like we've kind of talked about what it is. Like it's they're asking you to pay for publishing, and then they're acting as a publisher, but you're paying for that, right? So I think one of the reasons that I see in other authors and conversations I've had is they're just kind of scared to publish themselves. Like they feel like they don't have the tech skills to do it, or they don't have the knowledge to self-publish, and someone shows up willing to do that for them, and it just feels like an easy out, or it feels like a relief, right? Like because it can be scary if you don't know those things, and someone shows up and will do that for you for this price. Like, and it just feels like a relief. So I think that's one of the reasons that people are just scared to do it themselves.
Yeah. And it's really tempting, if you have a book that you're working on and you're a Christian author and you're watching TV and the commercial comes on that says, "Do you have a book? We'll publish it for you." And they have all these things, all the bells and whistles. If you don't really understand the publishing industry and how things work, that can be so tempting.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Oh, they're going to publish my book and it's going to sell and people are going to read it and I'm going to make all this money. And it doesn't work that way.
Mhm. I think
Oh,
people don't know any better either. Like when we first started out, we didn't have all the knowledge that we have now. And in 5, 10 years, we'll have more knowledge that we don't have now. Right. So I
right.
think that's another reason why people fall for scammers is because they just don't know any better. They don't know that they can get the help to do all the things that the vanity press is saying they'll do for them for a fee. They don't know that they can do all that same stuff for without giving up their rights. Like the price you would pay to a vanity publisher, you could pay for your own covers. You could pay for editing, and you would end up with paying out less money generally. I mean,
And
I'm
you
not even
retain the rights to your
yes.
product. Like
You're
to
yes.
me, for somebody to pay too much, what I would consider to be too much for any service or for a book cover or whatever, like I'm like, whatever, as long as then I don't find out. And now they own my rights and I can't even, run another printing of it by my own publishing. Now they like own my book and they have it locked up over here because it's not even my book anymore. And I gave them all of this money. That's
Yes.
when it guts me.
And we're not
Yeah.
even talking little money. Like I have
Mm-mm.
in Christian writing groups, because I feel like Christians are targeted heavy with this. In Christian marketing groups, Facebook groups, people are paying $5,000, $10,000 because they're made these promises and they think they're going to be making this money back. And it just breaks my heart that this is
Yeah.
happening to people. So it's not like a little bit of money. And for even $5,000, I mean, if you pay $1,000 for your book cover, you are getting an amazing book cover. I'm not saying
Mhm.
that's too much, but you can pay a lot less than that and get a great book cover for your genre. Editing, let's say you get a really great editor and you pay $1,200. You're still only $2,200. And we
Mhm.
do it way cheaper than that. We're going to talk about that in an upcoming episode. But at $2,200, that's way less than $5,000 or $10,000. and you can retain your rights. So again,
Yeah.
I just think that the people don't understand that you can pay for these things individually and retain your rights. So it's just a lack of knowledge.
It is. And they know that anything that is good is supposed to cost money. So they think, well, this is just how everybody does it. Everybody writes a book and then they pay to get it on Amazon. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like they
Yeah.
just believe that that's the way it's supposed to be. And the long held view is you write the book and then someone else publishes it. And
Right.
so you just think it's supposed to be somebody else doing it. And when this company comes at you and says they're a publisher and, ooh, they can't wait to get your book, it feels like, well, that's how it's supposed to be. And so, you just kind of follow right along.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably part of where that term vanity press comes from, because they
Mm-hmm.
really are feeding on the vanity of the author. Like, this is my book. I want people to read it. I want it to be out there. And here is somebody who's like, they haven't even seen my book. They haven't even read it. And they're like, we're going to publish your book and you're going to make this money. And, like, it's just
But it feels really
sleazy.
good when you put all this work into something and it's your passion and it's hard to write a book. We
And
know
you feel
this.
like God gave you this story and it's meant
Yes.
to reach a lot of people.
And someone shows up and says, "We are a Christian publishing house and we want to publish your book." You feel like God has sent them. Now, I'm sorry, don't go throwing stones at me, but I'm telling you, every person that comes to you and says they're a Christian business or Christian person, they're not all that. And even if they are, that doesn't mean that they have good business practices. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry to hurt your feelings, but I'm telling you, if God gave you your story, and I've said this before, it deserves the time and energy to write it. Remember, I've said this before. Like, you don't rush through it. Give it the time and energy and respect that it deserves if God gave you that story. Same thing goes with this. If God gave you this story, it deserves your time to do the research, to learn self-publishing. Go in and learn about it before you go paying someone else. I'm taking an ad course right now. Do I want to always do my own ads? No, I'd love to not worry about it. But if I don't know how to do them, I can't go and pay someone else to do it because I don't know if they're ripping me off or not. Right.
Right.
So it takes you have to learn these things if God gave you your story.
Well, and it's unfortunate you kind of bring up a sad reality is that many people, myself included, believe that they're going to write a book and sell a bunch of copies. And now this is like my side hustle or my second income. Like it's an easy way to make some extra money. And it's funny because the more I look into pretty much every side hustle out there, it all comes down to like the successful people actually are working hard at whatever side hustle it is. It's not just easy money. You don't
Right.
just like write a book and now you're bringing in millions. There is work that you have to do. So you just have to decide this is the flavor of work that I want
Mhm.
to do. And the easy way out seems to be like, well, here's $5,000 and now my book is published and I'm just going to sit back and wait for those royalties to come in. So you have to really check yourself about, am I looking for a get rich quick situation or am I really willing to invest so that I can reap a harvest?
I agree. I have met several six-figure authors, and every single one of them, They write often. Some of them write like once a month, but some of them just write once or twice a year, like publish once or twice a year. But they are working their butts off with everything else, all the behind the scenes stuff, the marketing, the book covers, the selling of it. Like they are working hard. So yeah,
Okay, so let's talk about how to avoid the scammers.
okay. Research. Just because they say they're publishing, and if they say they're Christian publishing, I would be even more. I'm sorry, like, but I'm telling you from experience, if they say they're a Christian publisher, I would be even more leery of them because you just need to do your research. And here's what I would suggest is like, I would say, first of all, ask for the name of books and authors that they have worked with or that they are currently working with or that they publish. If they don't give you any, that's a
Mm.
big red flag there. If they give you a couple, whatever. Or, and here's what I would suggest is like, I would say, first of all, ask for the name of books and authors that they have worked with or that they publish. If they don't give you any, that's a big red flag there. If they give you a couple, whatever. Or inversely, you can go to Amazon and whatever the publishing house name is, put that in the search bar. Because when a person publishes and there's a publishing house listed, it may not be something you can click on, but you can search it and Amazon will bring up every book that is out by that publishing house and look at them, read the reviews. Because if people are saying this book was terribly edited or this book was because reviewers will tell you if the books are not edited well. If there aren't very many reviews, that might be a clue that they're not doing any marketing on their books. If there are if the book covers, look at the book covers. If they're terrible, right? Do the look inside, read the first few pages and see if there's editing problems in the first few pages. This would be a very big indicator of what these people are going to do for your book. So that would be my first thing. Even if it's a legit company, really, what don't you ladies think? Like, even if it's a legit company, you should do this research.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
And then
you're not Jen and you're not Jamie and you're not Tina, and you might be looking for a particular situation to suit your circumstances, and you need to know if you're going to get what you want from whatever publishing deal that you get. So it's impossible that's why we can't really advise you on which way to go is best for you. We've talked about all of the myriad of reasons why someone might even say indie is not for me. I'm going to go ahead and get an agent and try to traditionally publish. We can't make those decisions for you, and we can't do this research for you because we don't know your situation. So even the ones that are trusted might not be a good fit for you. And does that make them a scam or a bad company? No, it just makes them not a good fit for you.
I was just listening to the Sell More Book show this week's episode with Brian Cohen, and I don't remember the other lady's name, but anyway, Brian was saying, reach out to those authors. They talked about this topic a little bit this week, which was funny to me. But he's like, do what I said, go find other books from this publishing house and then reach out to them. I know that most of us are introverts, but it's okay because the people you're reaching out to are probably introverts too, but go find them on, contact them through their social media or something like that. If they don't have any social media presence, that would concern me as well, but reach out to at least 5 is what Brian Cohen said, at least 5. And think about it. If you can't find 5 or get 5 to respond back to you, right, then that would be a problem. But if you reach out to at least 5, you're going to get like maybe a myriad of opinions. But if it is a scam, there will be a ton of authors that their books are still under that publishing house that they can't get their rights back or they haven't gotten their rights back, and they'll be more than happy to tell you the problems, right? But if it's a legitimate publishing house, then they'll tell you that. They'll tell you what they liked about it and what they didn't. And I think that even if it's a legitimate company, I think that's a good practice to do before you sign any contracts.
And the more authors you talk to, the more you'll be able to see the patterns.
Yes, exactly.
Even if they each had a different experience, if there's a pattern in there, it will emerge from what they say. So
that's true.
Agreed. And then you need to make sure you educate yourself about self-publishing, obviously, because they kind of a small publisher really is a self-publisher, but in a traditional business model.
Yeah, and see how confusing it gets real quick if you're not really looking at it. But you guys who are listening are already one step ahead of everyone else because you listen to the Christian Indie Writers podcast. And if you should be recommending us to anybody else who you think, if you're afraid to answer this question for somebody, send them our way to watch our backlist of episodes. You can tell them, well, I think, I heard on my podcast or whatever, but then you can send them to the Ally link that we put. I mean, we're here for this purpose. We say all the time, none of us are making any money doing this. This is what we feel is our ministry for this time in our lives. And we want to encourage people and prevent people from getting scammed. Like, that's the point of this particular episode. So please do consider us part of your research toolkit, and educate yourself and encourage others to become more educated about what it means to be self-published.
Okay. So we have some red flags. We have a few things. If you see these things, just turn around and run the other direction. What are those things? Who wants to?
Well, that first one was all yours, Tina. It made me laugh out loud when you said it, but
Yeah. If they're advertising on TV, turn around and run.
yeah,
Because there's so many authors that want to be published. Authors query publishing houses. Publishing houses do not put commercials on TV.
exactly. Like publishing houses, legitimate ones, get thousands and thousands of queries every year, every month probably. They cannot accept all of them. So there's no legitimate publishing house that is out there actively looking for unknown authors. There just isn't. They
I
wait for
mean,
them to come to
a,
them.
a real publishing house probably turns down more authors than they publish. So
No,
they
for sure.
don't have a need for commercial. Why would they spend advertising dollars on commercials when they have all these queries coming in? They wouldn't.
Now, is it okay if I just jump in here because I just saw a call for submissions from a small press, right?
Hmm.
And so again, we're getting into kind of some nuance here.
Okay.
But what are we talking, like how do people
So
then
it might be the same one you're talking. The Hallmark one. Is that what you're talking about? Oh, okay.
no,
Because
this is
Hallmark just
a small press, and they were like, we're looking for this particular genre. You can query us at this particular link. So they may be legitimate, but
right.
they probably aren't going to, like, they probably don't have any big fish. They're probably hoping you'll be their big fish.
Right.
And so you just might not really expect to make a whole lot of money with a deal like that, maybe.
And they had a commercial on TV.
No, they did not.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why this was a Facebook post, and it was a call for submission. And I just kind of wanted to, sorry if that's kind of throwing a wrench into everything
No,
because
it's
we
not.
didn't discuss it before.
I think again, everything we've said still holds true. Still go
Yes.
through and check all these things that we said that you need to check for.
Mhm.
There will oftentimes be companies that will look for submissions, like specifically if they're looking for a certain genre or type and they are short on that. Like, so
There we
say
go.
for instance, I'm Hallmark Books and I know that I need more books for my fall lineup.
Mhm.
And I don't have enough fall, but I want to look at 1,000 books so I can pick one. I know that the way that it works for me is that I have to look at 1,000 to get that one.
There we
Right.
go.
And I
Yeah.
only have like 300 right now. So I might
Mhm.
open up the doors, the floodgates to get a bunch in, but they're not guaranteeing you that they're going to publish you.
Yes.
It's a
That's
submission,
the
so it's
difference.
different.
I
Yes,
was going to
because
say a query for submission is totally different than we will publish your book.
there you
Yes.
go. That helps. That helps me because again, like I want to be equipped to be able to tell people the difference. And
Right.
I did just like you said when I saw the posting, I clicked over there and I looked to see are they charging people money, et cetera,
Mhm.
et cetera. So you still have to do your due diligence, but I love that handy little, if they're saying we will publish your book sight unseen, that's a different thing altogether.
Yes.
Right.
All right, got it.
Exactly. So we were talking about if a company says that they'll publish your book for money, like you have to pay them, then I would run. Again, if you in a hybrid situation, do your due diligence. You can figure that out. But for me, I'm going to run because I know that I can pay other people and retain my own rights. Because the advantage of going with a trad publisher is that they take care of all of that, right? But
Mhm.
if I had to pay for that, then now I'm really have to step back and say, all right, even if you are a legitimate company and I'm having to pay you to do this stuff and give up my rights, why is this beneficial for me? Right. So again, for me personally, I would run in that situation.
Mhm.
And this is the one that just cracks me up every time. We'll publish you on Amazon. Let me tell you, folks. Okay, writing the book is hard, right?
Doing the blurb
It's
is
hard.
Harder.
Harder, right? Possibly the easiest thing that you will do in your author career is get your book published on Kindle and on Amazon. Like, yes, we've struggled with it. And I'll go back. I remember times that Jamie was like, and this was before the podcast even, and she was messaging us because she just wanted to throw her computer out the window because she couldn't get her cover, like the wraparound cover wasn't matching up right. And so it can be frustrating, let me tell you, but it's not impossible, right? Of all the things you will do as an author, getting on Amazon is possibly one of the easiest. Like they will
Agree.
help you do that. So if someone says,
And it's free.
yeah, it's free.
You don't have
Yes.
to pay to put your book on Amazon.
But so many of these companies use that as like, hey, I can get you on Amazon. And people are like, oh, because why, ladies? Because they haven't taken the time to learn self-publishing. They haven't taken the time to learn what it means to be an author today. You know, if you take that little bit of time and figure that out, join a couple of groups on Facebook, you'll learn yourself that that is not a legitimate company. That's not a model you want to be a part of, because
Right.
anybody can get you on Amazon.
And if you're that tech, what's the word? Like you just can't,
Averse.
you don't get tech at all. Like you can't
Mhm.
even check your email. Go find a teenager and ask them to do it for you. Like get your grandchild, your son, your daughter. They'll know how to do it.
So there's all kinds of options. We've talked about that before. Like you may choose to go the trad pub route, and we 100% will support you in that. We love you and we want you to do what's right for you. If you're taking your due diligence and making sure that it's a legitimate company and that they're taking care of you the right way, right?
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
but we do also know that some of you may have already been scammed. If you're listening to this worldwide, you possibly could have been scammed, and I believe that because I see it every single day on Facebook in writing groups that I'm in. People that have been scammed, and it's, you might feel like it's too late, and it probably is. First of all, I just want to say we're sorry. We're
It's
so sorry that
horrible.
happened to you. That should never happen, especially if it was
And
a Christian
angry.
company.
We're
Yeah,
also angry that it happened to you.
yeah. You're never going to get your money back. Like, I don't think you're ever, like, you would pay more in legal fees to try to get back. And somebody mentioned I know we haven't added the chat a whole lot because I knew we had a lot of meat and we just didn't have time. Go back and read our chat. It's full of lots of great information. But somebody mentioned that there needs to be more regulation. And it's just, it's not really possible because people are signing contracts. The contracts are clear. These companies know what they're doing. The contracts are very clear. You just aren't a lawyer when you read them, and you don't have the knowledge you need to know exactly what you're signing away. So they're not doing anything illegal. They are doing everything by the books. We just aren't educated the way they are. So, but it's not the end of the world, because you can try. There are things you can do. First of all, you can ask for your rights back. I have heard of it happening, because think about it. If I am a scammer, I'm not making money off you selling your books. I'm making my money off the front end. You giving me your money to pay for editing, which I probably didn't do, to pay for book covers that I put out that are garbage. So I've already made my money. So if you reach out to them, it's a very good possibility that they will sign your rights back to you, because they're done with you. They don't care. So if you're in this situation, reach out and ask for your rights back. And keep asking, be that like pain in their side to where they just finally want to get rid of you, because they're not making money off you anymore.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. Get your rights back and then come back to us and let's start you all over, because you can republish. You can take that book and republish it under yourself, and it probably actually start making some money off of it. So
Good word.
word up.
Is that from the 80s?
Yeah, 100%.
Everything good came from the 80s. Music.
Well,
like
I was born in the 70s, so I would disagree.
I
would
just
say
meant
everything-
like
I know.
music, and you can't watch a commercial anymore without hearing a song from the 80s.
That's true.
Because
That's very
music was
true.
good. Okay, now it's time for our favorite time of the episode. I can't talk. Favorite time of the podcast, where we do the feeding of the backs. And so for those of you that are new, this is a little term we came up with because when we would give feedback at our writing group meetings, Jamie would always say, "Is your back well fed?" And we would say yes. So we call this the feeding of the back. So we have a timer we set for 15 minutes and a prompt, and we write for 15 minutes. For that prompt, we don't have time to plan, and we don't have time for editing. So this is raw, unedited work. So we only give positive feedback. And we have done that, and we are going to read what we wrote. So I'm going to start with Jen today.
All right. So today's prompt was, what if a book came to life? And so I told Tina I hated her this morning before we started writing, because she's the one that brought the prompt to us. But and I did use it, and I did not get to the end of the story. So
You
new
said you
characters
needed like 1 or 2 more minutes to get
to
to the
get to a
end.
point where it still wouldn't be the end of the story, but get to a point like the shattering moment maybe, or enough where you want to read the next chapter. But okay. Janelle settled herself into the corner booth, placing her double mocha latte down while she rifled through her purse. She sifted through half-used notebooks and old receipts until she finally found what she was looking for at the bottom, a tattered copy of her favorite romance. It had been years since she had read it, but it always seemed to resurface in her mind whenever she went through a breakup, which is exactly what happened this morning. Waking up this morning to the realization that she was once again single and had made her wonder where the book had landed since her move only a month ago. It hadn't taken long to find it, luckily. Of the 20 boxes she had moved into her new studio apartment, 12 of them had been boxed books. But it only took her 3 boxes to find the correct one. It had been a sight for sore eyes, since the demise of her relationship also meant that she no longer was invited to his company's picnic today. Janelle found herself with a completely free day. She opened to page 1 and smiled. Opening scene, trendy little coffee shop, just like the one she sat in right now, she mused. She quickly sped through the first few pages that introduced the heroine of the story. Janelle knew her well. Late 20s, shy and a bit awkward, recently dumped. Yeah, Janelle knew this character very well. But that isn't why she was reading this book again. If she wanted to hear more about some poor sap that just couldn't find the right guy, she'd go back home and have a conversation with her bathroom mirror. No, the real reason that she read this book over and over again came in on page 3. Lance Masterson. Tall, dark, and adorably geeky. Glasses, but the cute kind that did more to frame and accentuate his hazel eyes than they did to hide any handsome features. In this first scene, he wore a cardigan, his signature look, with a worn, tattered Harvard t-shirt underneath it. Janelle imagined the t-shirt so worn the muscles underneath would be obvious, even though the shirt wasn't skin tight. But the author didn't say that. Janelle just knew. She took a sip of her coffee just as the hero entered the page. Is a seat taken? Janelle began to violently choke on her latte in shock. Someone stood over her table and had said the same words as the book she was just reading. She calmed herself and nervously looked up to apologize. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, no!
Oh,
Curse you, timer.
435 words. That's the most I've gotten in a sprint in a long
It
time.
did not feel like that many words. It was like really, I mean that is like a good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, really awesome. Oh man. And
I
Like,
would
you know where it's
argue.
going, right? I mean,
I
obviously.
would argue that you have a shattering moment because I'm shattered. Like, what?
Agree.
It can't be over.
This
I
could be a
have to
really
say,
funny little story. Like,
I
it could
love
be
it.
fun.
I love it that you took the prompt this way. It's so not what I did. And I'm really curious to see what Tina did in this. Like, you had the book come to life, but like, it reminded me of that Aha video where
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Take
Speaking
on
of
Me.
the 80s.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love that video.
Oh man. And I know a really good looking guy named Lance and a last name that's very much like Masterson. Although
Really?
he was not dark. He was a blonde with blue eyes, but it was just so funny because I'm like, oh yeah, good looking Lance can relate. So that was really awesome.
He probably
really
won't
good.
stay dark. I like, because dark, handsome, like, it's just overdone. But then again, he might need to be like that textbook romance character. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
yeah, it needs to be kind of like, what do they always write them to be like? You know, 'cause that's what it needs to
Yes.
be. Very
I
fun.
really like this. I really hope it will capture your imagination enough that you'll come back to it someday because
Yeah, I
it
hope
did
so,
mine.
too. I got a lot of
Okay,
chat.
who is that singer with the red hair?
Rick Astley.
No.
Oh.
He's current.
Kieran?
Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, like I feel like Ed Sheeran would be really good in that role. Like somebody that looks like
Really?
him. Because he's
Piper,
kind of like adorably geeky to me.
Yeah, true. But I don't know if he couldn't sing as well as he does. I don't know if he would be that.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
he does have a Prince Harry thing going on, so maybe.
Yeah, I
Maybe.
mean he's not classically handsome, but there's something adorable about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Piper says, oh my gosh, what a time to stop. She agrees that you have a shattering moment. Shell says, Jen, such a cute concept. Great scene, very Hallmark.
Yeah.
Agree. Piper, several laugh out loud moments in there. Yes, yes. And Liz said, yeah, I'd read that book. I love having a conversation in her mirror. Me too.
Yeah.
And Gigi says, I would totally watch that movie. So good. Loved it all. Maybe this could be your nano project this year.
Oh, maybe.
Because it's simple enough to where it would only need a nano treatment, I would think, because it's not going to be a super complicated, many sisters plotline.
I know. I totally have to make a decision about contemporary romance or not, because like I keep writing back and forth between the two, but I don't have enough time to be writing both. So I got to make a decision if I'm going to really take the time and commit to doing some contemporary, because I don't want to just do one or two. Right. So anyways, but thank you everybody for the feedback. I really appreciate that.
Okay. Well, I'll go next.
Yay.
I have a confession. I stared at this blank screen for like 5 minutes of the 15-minute prompt.
I know that. You know how I know that? Because you didn't mute yourself and I couldn't hear any clicking of the keys. So I finally muted you.
No, forget to mute myself.
That's okay. It's funny.
So this is what it's kind of short. So here we go. What if a book came to life? Little Johnny said to his mom. I guess that depends on which book it was, she replied, pulling the covers up and tucking them around little Johnny's chin. Puff the magic dragon, he said, sitting up again and then flopping back onto his pillow, closing his eyes and grinning as the images swirled in his brain. Puff sticking his head through the window while he hovered in the air just outside, his wings, seemingly too small for his body, for such a large frame, nothing but a blur against the blue sky. Puff sitting on the foot of his bed, showing little Johnny how to walk the dog with his yo-yo. Puff scaring the nurses away when they came in with their needles and their cups of medicine. Oh, well, I suppose we'd have to find you a larger room, his mom said, and buy some sealing wax. But why do you need wax for the ceiling anyway? That's what I can't figure out. And if there's wax on the ceiling, why does it look so dull and bumpy? Little Johnny's mom readjusted his blanket and kissed him on the forehead. You go to sleep now, she said, settling into the chair and pulling a paperback from her bag. Mom? Yes, Johnny? Do you think Puff will be in heaven when I get there? But before his mom could answer, little Johnny had drifted off into sleep.
Tina, again, I hate you.
Beginning, middle, and end. Very nice.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding about hating you. You know that.
Yeah, that's positive feedback, believe it or not.
It really is.
I know.
It really is.
I'm playing with you.
Like, to take my emotions on such a roller coaster ride in just a short amount of words is just like insane. And like, I was just totally there. Like, I love the whole idea of an imaginary character, like imaginary dragon. And like, in my mind, I was saying like, oh, this would be a great little kids movie. And then your sharing moment came earlier. Like, it was a slow, like it came on, like all of a sudden, like, wait, what? Nurses, needles, what? And then, he mentions heaven, and like, it was just really great.
Thanks. I didn't plan it. It just came out that way.
Yeah, obviously.
Which is a total plug for doing writing sprints, because eventually your brain just kind of goes on autopilot. And even if you stare at the page for 5 minutes, something comes out.
Yeah, your brain is like, oh, we're doing this. And then it's tippity type tap.
Yeah. Piper says, oh, Puff scaring away the nurses.
Yeah.
Barbara says, oh, Tina. Piper says, you killed me, all caps. Gigi says, oh, Tina, so good. Piper's crying. Piper has a lot to say about what you just wrote. Barbara's choked up as well. And Shell says, wow, Tina, I'm not crying. You're crying. Yeah. Well done, Tina.
Yeah. Very well done. Good pull on the emotions.
Okay, Jamie, it's your turn.
I know we're not supposed to make excuses for our work, but I do not like what I wrote this week. But what's interesting about it is you'll see some similarities between the way Tina and I took the prompt, but they're still completely different, which I find interesting. What if a book came to life? The question was squeaked out around a mouthful of Chicken McNugget, and I smiled at my baby boy who was gripping one nugget in his right hand and fondling his favorite picture book with his left. Before I could answer, Tom said, that's called a movie, and trust me, you'd be disappointed if your favorite book came to life that way. I watched my boy's brows come together as he seemed to stare with even more focused energy on the cover of It's a Happy, Bright, Cheerful Night. Maybe not, I said, hoping to ease a bit of Lucas's obvious consternation. Maybe they do a good job with Cheerful Night. I mean, most animated films pay off in a way live action productions don't, in my experience. My husband snorted. Aren't you always the one saying the book is better than the movie? Quite a 360 you're pulling all of a sudden. Like I said, I shrugged, struggling to keep the tone of the conversation light. Maybe some animator could do a good job with the story. It's pretty simple after all, and could possibly be done as a straight read through, unlike most adaptations. The silence that followed the statement felt decidedly thick. I directly challenged Tom's opinion, and I suspected it wasn't going over well because his hand moved to his jaw and he rubbed the 2 days' growth there. Then, without warning, he brought his hand back down on the horn and hit the brake. Unbelievable, he yelled, sending a stream of obscenities and a decidedly hostile hand gesture in the direction of a yellow car that was traveling so fast it was already almost out of sight. My stomach churned and I felt my pulse quicken, but I reminded myself there was no danger. He's just angry about these crazy drivers, I told myself, and endeavored to continue our conversation as if Tom's road rage reaction hadn't even happened. Besides, I said, maybe there's a different way a book can come to life, aside from it being made into a movie. I was glad to see a smile break out over Lucas's face. Yeah, I mean, what if the picture of the gritty kitty meowed at me? Or what if the puffy pillow popped out and I could hold it in my hand? That's virtual reality, my husband scoffed. I wanted to glare at him, but I knew better. So instead, I turned to look out my window, hoping for something in the dreary gray landscape to divert me from my thoughts of how Tom was being such an annoying wet blanket. I ought to be happy, after all, that he was spending his day off running errands with us instead of hanging out all day on the golf course like some of my friends' husbands. But I wasn't happy, not on that Saturday and not really any day since that one. And then I ran out of time.
Wow. Great characters. Like, I love, go ahead, Tina.
I just was wondering, have you written about this couple before? Like,
I typically
feel
write
like,
about this kind of couple
okay.
often.
I feel like you wrote another thing of them in the car and the kind of like almost like dysfunctional conversation where she's trying to keep the peace and he's just being a snot.
Mm.
I love how you built tension, though, in the way that, like, you can see. Oh, I don't know why my Alexa's talking all of a sudden. Excuse me. I just unplugged her. I love how you build tension in a way that, like, we're there with her. Like, she's getting a little bit nervous, but then the car, like his driving issues, and like, then I'm like, I feel like it's so realistic, right? You could write the story about how she's getting all nerved up and then she recalls when he hit her. Like, you don't do that. You just like really give us little itty bitty bites and let us like presume. But you've led us to those presumptions. You just do that so well, Jamie. I'm just very
Thanks, I
impressed always.
appreciate that.
Yeah, good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
So
Piper says, "Oh, that is often true. Movies made from books tend to disappoint." That's
That is for
true.
sure true.
Another emotional roller coaster. Agreed. Jamie, you get so deep in the inner thoughts and feelings so quickly. Gigi just says, "Jamie, my heart was right there with your heroine. Your characters come alive."
Oh, thank you.
Barbara says, "You were too hard. You were too hard on your work. Really showed the differences between them, though. Everyday situation with kid. So
Appreciate that. Yeah, that was the intent. Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome.
I tend to be writing a lot about dysfunctional romantic relationships lately for some reason. So thanks for everybody for enduring that and going there with me. I find it to be just what's coming out lately. Appreciate it.
So it's time to transition into our What's Next segment, where everybody says what's next. So Jamie, do you want to go first for that?
No, but I will. I am going to the Tavares Community Theater production tonight of The Odd Couple. It is a modernized version of the classic Felix and Oscar story. So I'm really excited to see that. My friend Dan, who works with me, is going to be playing the role of Felix, and I can't wait to see that. And also, sadly, send my friend and her daughter back off up to the great frozen mitten. Although hopefully it's kind of turning a corner up there, guys. Are they going to have some spring weather when they get back?
Yeah, I think it's been cold at night, but it's going to be like in the 60s here for a few days, and then it should start warming up, I think.
Well, that's
yeah, we've kind of been like, if you're talking about turning a corner of the road analogy, this is one of those like one roads that go like this,
Yes.
like that snake curve, because I think it was 80 for 2 days last
It
week, and
was,
then it was, like, freezing, and
and it snowed
it
after
snowed,
that.
yeah,
Mhm.
mhm. So, and then now it's a little bit warmer, so we don't like, we live in Michigan. Whatever season you like, just wait 5 minutes.
It'll be there. Yeah, like today, this morning, there was frost on the ground, and it's gonna be sunny and 60s today, so
Yeah. So,
mhm.
yeah, we have schizophrenic weather.
What
Um,
about you, Tina? What's up with you? What's next?
well, I got this book coming out.
Mhm,
Um, you know, I went to the small group thing with my daughter runs a small group at her church, and so she invited me to come, and I went, and we were talking about, I don't even know why the subject came up, but I was talking about how this strong feeling like the books I wrote weren't good enough and I need to just like chuck them all,
mhm,
and I know in my head that that's ridiculous,
mhm,
but like in here I still have this feeling like, oh no, it's out there and it's horrible. um and we talked about that, and everyone said they were going to pray for me, and then the next day I'm in this group on Facebook called the Avid Christian Readers Group, and somebody had put a post on there, and it was a question, and it said, what's your favorite book you've read so far this year? And somebody
mhm.
put my book on there,
Aw,
Aw.
and so I was like, well, there's a boon to my
that's
paralyzing
awesome.
self-doubt. Like, my paralyzing self-doubt has had been lifted just a little bit. So yeah, I'm struggling with the anxiety of putting it out there, even though I really trust my editor, and I'm sure she would have told me if it was horrible. uh But yeah, that's where I am right now.
Well, I think it's important that you deal with this now and keep thinking about it because, like you said, your editor has read it. I don't know if you've heard from any of your beta readers or whatever, but you're going to be getting plenty of feedback, and you like your story, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And so I think it's important now to realize that you can't let a negative comment or a negative review undo the bunches of positive. You understand what I mean? Because I
Mhm.
think we're
Yeah.
all inclined to do that. One sideways comment or one less than glowing review. And that tends to be where we fixate. And we just kind of tend to not pay any attention to the fact that so many people said that they liked it and that it was good.
Mhm.
So I think it's wise to be sorting through these feelings now
Yeah,
so that
because I
you're
haven't
prepared for
gotten a
that.
negative review yet. So,
So,
like, I had
see?
one 3-star review on my first book, and they said that the world building needed help, but they didn't explain what that meant, and
Mhm.
I felt like they were wrong, so I just ignored it.
Hmm, good for
But
you.
other than that, like, they've all been good. So, and yet it's crazy. Like, it's crazy this feeling like it's not good enough.
Yep.
I saw a
Imposter
meme the
syndrome.
other day that said, writing a book doesn't make you an author. The paralyzing self doubt that keeps you from writing the book makes you an author.
That's good.
So, yeah,
Because we
that's
all
where
go through it. Every time I publish a book, right afterwards, I go through it after every single time. So you're
Well, and
not
I
alone,
think
Tina.
I'm sorry, but I think that that's also a reason why people will fall for the predatory publishing
Mhm,
tactics is because, oh, someone else is saying my book is good. And it gives you
mhm.
this feeling of validation like,
Yep,
oh, it's somebody else saying this book is worthy of publication. And it like eases you a little bit.
yep,
So, anyway, I
agreed.
just think that's a tie back. What's next with you, Jen?
Well, first, let me hit up the chat. Piper says her what's next, going to see Fantastic Beasts tonight with my daughter.
Oh,
Hoping to
good.
get
nice.
words written before that. And Shell says, what's next? Arc reading an awesome Christian dystopian novel. Loving it so far and hoping to finish this week.
Oh,
So,
thanks, so. I'm
um,
glad
s-
you're loving it.
so I have been spending a lot of time in jumping headfirst into Amazon ads. And I don't want to say a whole lot because I'm like really kind of like testing some things out, making some marketing decisions I didn't think I would ever make. But so shortly, hopefully within the next month or two, I will have some feedback on that. Meanwhile, editing book 4, you all know that I had laptop issues. So before I got my second laptop, my Mac set up to where I could use Scrivener, I was handwriting a bunch of things when I was at the nursing home with my mother, and I can't find it. I thought it was all in the same notebook, and I found one page, and I have all this work I already did, and I can't find it. And I am like, it cripples me. I'll be honest. Like, I just feel like I have to tear my house apart and look for it instead of just sitting down and writing something new. So I'm going to give it one more week. And if I can't find it, I'm just going to give up, and I'm going to start that part over again, and just decide that God didn't want what I hand wrote. He didn't want that in the book. That's what I'm going to do. So be praying for me that God's will be done. Like, if he wants me to find what I already wrote, that I would find it. And if not, that I would have the peace of mind to know that I just need to move on. So that's what was my what's next.
I'll pray for you to
Wow.
find it. I've lost keys before and prayed and
Oh yeah.
and found the keys.
I was just about to compliment you on your mature decision to pray for God's will instead of praying for you to find the notes. And Tina's like, I'll pray for you to find those notes.
That's what I'm going to pray. Look, if I pray for her to find the notes and it's God's will, it's not God's will, he's not going to answer that prayer
It's
anyway.
true.
So
That's true. Very true.
I'm just going to go for it.
All right.
Okay, so do we have anything else in the chat we need to talk about? Anything that we... Nope. Okay. So next week we are discussing pinching publishing pennies. More great alliteration going on here. So you'll want to tune in for that one. See if we can save you some money.
Right.
Okay, so this concludes the Christian Indie Writers podcast. So until next week, may your pen be prolific, your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ.
Bye, everyone.